Harappan civilization. So this is continuation of old NCERT, and if you see our new NCERT starts from this, from Harappan civilization. So that's why to cover those topics till now, I had to refer to this old NCERT. So this is a very important chapter. So if we see which topics are important for ancient history for UPSC perspective, Harappan civilization, Mauryas, Guptas, okay, and Harshavardhana time period. So these are the most important topics, and art and culture of these periods are also very important. And new NCERT starts from this Harappan civilization, and also old NCERT has so much of art and culture component. New NCERT is mostly focused on history, timelines, etc., features, etc. But here we have so much of art and culture embedded in the history book. So that is why old NCERT is good. Questions are coming from both. New NCERT is good in maps. So if you see, new NCERT has very good clear maps, and questions are coming from these maps. Okay. So reading both together is perfect. So let us start. First, let me read the old NCERT. After reading this chapter from old NCERT, same chapter I will read from the new NCERT. So, chapter 6, the Harappan civilization. Geographical extent. The Indus or the Harappan culture is older than Chalcolithic cultures, which have been treated earlier, but it is far more developed than these cultures. So it is the first to come than these Chalcolithic copper-based cultures, but it is the most advanced one. It arose in northwestern part of Indian subcontinent. It is called Harappan because this civilization was discovered first in 1921 at the modern site of Harappa, situated in the province of West Punjab in Pakistan. The Harappan culture covered parts of Punjab, Sindh, Baluchistan, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and the fringes of western UP. It extended from Jammu in the north to Narmada estuary in the south, and from the Makran coast of Baluchistan in the west to Meerut in the northeast. The area formed a triangle and accounted for about 12,99,600 square kilometers, which is larger than the Pakistan and certainly bigger than the ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. No other cultural zone in the 3rd and 2nd millennium BC in the world as large as the Harappan zone. So you can even see the image here. The general structure of Harappan civilization, plan of the city. Okay. So although over 250 Harappan sites are known, only 6 can be regarded as cities. Of these, 2 most important sites are Harappa in the Punjab and Mohenjo-daro in the Sindh, both forming parts of Pakistan. Situated at a distance of 483 kilometers, they were linked together by the Indus. A third city lay at the Chanhu-daro, about 130 kilometers south of Mohenjo-daro in Sindh, and a fourth of Lothal in Gujarat at the head of the Gulf of the Cambay. A fifth city lay at the Kalibangan in northwestern Rajasthan. A sixth called Banawali is situated in the Hisar district in Haryana. It saw 2 cultural phases, pre-Harappan and Harappan, similar to Kalibangan. So the city of Banawali and Kalibangan both are 2 cultural phases. They were existing before Harappan and they got developed during Harappan. Which city? This Banawali and this Kalibangan. To the Harappan period belong the remains of the mud brick platforms and of streets and drains. The Harappan culture is noticeable in its nature and flourishing stage at all these 6 places. It is also found in its mature phase in the coastal cities of Sutka Gaindor and Surkotada. So Sutka Gaindor and Surkotada, each one of which is marked by a citadel. The later Harappan phase is found in Rangpur and Rosdi in the Kathiawar Peninsula in Gujarat. Okay. So if you see the map is not very good here, you can see the map from the new NCERT. So this is what they are talking about. So you can see here Harappa near this Ravi River, which is a tributary of Indus River. Then you have Mohenjo-daro adjacent to Indus River. Then this is Sanhudaro they are talking about. And in India, Rajasthan, we have Kalibangan. And here we have Lothal. Okay. Here in Haryana, we have Banawali. So these are some cities they are talking about. And this Sukka coastal city, coastal city they are talking about. Okay, so these are some cities they are talking. So let us go to the old NCERT. Town planning and structures. The Harappan culture was distinguished by its system of town planning. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro each had its own citadel or acropolis, which was possibly occupied by members of the ruling class. So every city has something called citadel, a big structure which is possibly occupied by the rich people, ruling class. Below the citadel in each city lay a lower town. So citadel is higher, and other than citadel there is normal lower town containing block houses which are inhabited by the common people. The remarkable thing about the arrangement of the houses in the cities is that they follow the grid system. This is true of almost all Indus settlements regardless of the size. Roads cut across one another almost at right angles, and the city was divided into so many blocks. The most important place of Mohenjo-daro seems to be Great Bath, comprising the tank which is situated in the citadel mount. It is an example of beautiful brickwork. It measures 11.88 into 7.01 meters and 2.43 meters deep. Flights of steps at either end lead to the surface. There are side rooms for changing clothes. The floor of the bath was made of burnt bricks. Water was drawn from a large well in an adjacent room, and an outlet from one corner of the bath led to a drain. It is suggested that Great Bath served a ritual bathing, which was so vital to any religious ceremony in India. In Mohenjo-daro, the largest building is a granary, which is 45.71 meters long and 15.23 meters wide. But in citadel of Harappa, we find as many 6 granaries. We come across a series of brick platforms which formed the basis for 2 rows of 6 granaries. Each granary measured 15.23 into 6.09 meters and lay within few meters of the river bank. The combined floor space of the 12 units would be about 8381025 square meters. Approximately, it had the same area as the Great Granary at Mohenjo-daro. To the south of the granaries at Harappa lay working floors consisting of the rows of circular brick platforms. These were evidently meant for threshing grain because wheat and barley have been found in the crevices of the floors. At Harappa were also built 2-roomed barracks which possibly accommodated laborers. At Kalibangan also we notice in the southern part brick platforms which may have been used for granaries. Thus, it would appear that granaries constituted an important part of the Harappan cities. The use of the burnt bricks in Harappan cities is remarkable because it is contemporary buildings of Europe. Dried bricks were mainly used. Find the use of the baked bricks in contemporary Mesopotamia, but they were used to a much larger extent in the Harappan sites. The drainage system of Mohenjo-daro was very impressive. In almost all cities, every big or small house had its own courtyard and bathroom. In Kalibangan, many houses had their wells. Water flowed from the house to streets, which had drains. Sometimes these drains were covered with bricks and sometimes with stone slabs. The street drains were equipped with manholes. The remains of streets and drains have also been found at Banawali. Altogether, the drainage system and the quality of the domestic bathrooms and drains are remarkable, and the drainage system of Harappa is almost unique. Perhaps no other civilization gave so much attention to health and cleanliness as the Harappan. Agriculture, comparatively rainless, the Indus region is not so fertile these days. Its prosperous villages and towns show that it was fertile in ancient times. At present, it has only a rainfall about 15 centimeters. In the 4th century BC, one of the historians of Alexandria informed us that Sindh was the fertile part of the country. In earlier tunes, the Indus possessed more natural vegetation, which attracted more rainfall. It supplied timber fuel for baking bricks on a large scale and also for construction. In course of time, natural vegetation was destroyed by the extension of agriculture, large scale grazing, and supply of fuel. A few more important reasons for the fertility of area seems to have been the annual inundation of the Indus River. Walls made of burnt bricks raised for protection show that floods took place annually. Indus carried far more alluvial soil than Nile in Egypt and deposited it on the floodplains just as the Nile created Egypt and supported its people. Also, the Indus created Sindh and it fed its people. The Indus people sowed seeds in the floodplains in the November when the flood water receded and reaped their harvest of wheat and barley in April before the advent of the next flood. No hoe or ploughshare has been discovered, but the furrows discovered in the pre-Harappan phase at Kalibangan show that fields were ploughed in Rajasthan in the Harappan period. The Harappans probably used the wooden ploughshare. We do not know whether the plough was drawn by men or oxen. Stone sickles may have been used for harvesting the crops. Governments or nalas enclosed by dams for storing water were a feature in parts of Balochistan and Afghanistan. But channel or canal irrigation seems to have been absent. The Harappan villages, mostly situated near the floodplains, produced sufficient food grains not only to feed themselves but also the town people. They must have, here we are talking about Harappan villages. Okay? They must have been working very hard to meet their own requirements as well as those of the artisans, merchants and others who lived in the city who are not directly concerned with food producing activities. The Indus people produced wheat, barley, rye, peas, etc. They produced two types of wheat and barley. A good quantity of barley has been discovered at Banavali. In addition to this, they produced sesame and mustard. But the position seems to have been different with the Harappans at Lothal. It seems that as early as 1800 BC, the people of Lothal used rice, whose remains have been found. Food grains were stored in huge granaries in both Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and possibly in Kalibangan. Probably cereals were received as taxes from the peasants and stored in granary for the payment of wages. This can be said on the analogy of Macedonian cities where wages were paid in barley. The Indus people were the earliest people to produce cotton. Because cotton was first produced in this area, the Greeks called it Sindon, which is derived from Sindh. So Sindon in ancient times means cotton. Domestication of animals. Although Harappans practiced agriculture, animals were kept on a large scale. Oxen, buffaloes, goats, sheep and pigs were domesticated. The humped bulls were favored by the Harappans. From the very beginning, dogs were regarded as pets. Cats were also domesticated and signs of feet of both dogs and cats have been noticed. They also kept asses and camels, which were possibly used as beasts of burden. Evidence of horse comes from it. This is somewhat disputed, but it says evidence of horse comes from a superficial level of Mohenjo-daro and from a doubtful terracotta figurine from Lothal. The remains of horse have been reported from Sukotada, situated on the west of Gujarat and belonging to around 2000 BC. But it is clear that this animal was not in regular use in Harappan times. Elephants were well known to the Harappans, who were also acquainted with rhinoceros. The contemporary Sumerian cities in Mesopotamia, particularly produced the same food grains and domesticated the same animals as Harappan did. But the Harappan people in Gujarat produced rice and domesticated elephant, which was not the case with the people of Mesopotamian cities. Technology and crafts. The Harappan people belongs to the Bronze Age. The people of Harappa used many tools and implements of stone, but they were well acquainted with the manufacture and use of bronze. Bronze was made by the smiths by mixing tin with copper. Since none of the two metals were easily available to Harappans, bronze tools are not prolific in Harappa. The purities of the ore show that copper was obtained from the K3 mines from Rajasthan, although it could also be brought from Balochistan. Tin was possibly brought with difficulty from Afghanistan, although its old workings are stated to have been found in Hazaribagh in Bihar. The bronze tools and weapons recovered from the Harappan sites contain a smaller percentage of tin. However, the kit of bronze goods left by Harappans is considerable, which suggests that bronze smith constituted an important part of artisans in the Harappan society. They produced not only images and utensils, but also various tools and weapons such as axes, saws, knives, and spears. Several other important crafts flourished in the Harappan town. Several other important crafts flourished in the Harappan towns. Several other important crafts flourished in Harappan towns. A piece of woven cotton has been removed from Mohenjo-daro, and the textile impressions found on the several objects. Spindle wools are used for spinning. Weavers wove cloth of wool and cotton. Huge brick structures suggest that bricklaying was an important craft. They also attest the existence of a class of masons. The Harappans also practiced board making. As will be shown later, seal making and terracotta manufacture were also important crafts. The goldsmiths made jewelry of gold, silver, gold, and precious stones. The first two may also been obtained from Afghanistan and last from India. The first two may have been obtained from Afghanistan and last from India. The Harappans were also experts in bead making. The potter's wheel was in full use, and the Harappans produced their own characteristics pottery, which was made glossy and shining. So previously it was black and red pottery and ochre colored pottery. Now Harappans developed a different pottery which is very glossy and shining than the previous one. Trade. The Harappan cities did not possess the necessary raw material for the commodities they produced. They did not use metallic money. We have no idea. So Harappans did not use metallic money. Okay? We have no idea about their currency. Most probably they carried on all exchanges through barter in return for finished goods and possibly food grain. They procured metals from the neighboring areas by boats and bullock carts. They practice navigation on the coast of the Arabian Sea. So they practice navigation on the coast of Arabian Sea. The new use of wheel and carts with solid weights were used in Harappa. It also appears that Harappans used some kind of modern ekka. So ekka meaning is horse cart. Okay. A cart drawn by horse. The Harappans had commercial links with Rajasthan, Afghanistan and Iran. Their cities also carried on commerce with those in islands of Tigris and Euphrates. Many Harappan seals have been discovered in the Mesopotamia, and it seems that Harappans imitated some cosmetics used by urban people of Mesopotamia. The Mesopotamian records from about 2350 BC refer to a trade relations with Meluha, which was the ancient name given to Indus regions. The Mesopotamian texts speak of the two intermediate trading stations. The Mesopotamian texts speak of two intermediate trading stations called Gilmun and Makan, which lay between Mesopotamia and Meluha. Gilmun can probably be identified with Bahrain on the Persian Gulf. Thousands of graves await excavation in that port city. Political organization. We have no clear idea about the political organization of the Harappans. In sharp contrast to Egypt and Mesopotamia, no temples have been found at any Harappan site. We have no religious structures of any kind except the Great Bath, which may have been used for ablutions. Therefore, it would be wrong to think that priests ruled in Harappa as they did in cities of lower Mesopotamia. There are some indicators of the practice of fire cult at a Lothal in Gujarat in later phase, but no temples were used for the purpose. Perhaps the Harappan rulers were more concerned with commerce than with conquest, and Harappa possibly ruled by a class of merchants. Religious practices. In Harappa, numerous terracotta figurines of women have been found. In one figurine, a plant is showing growing out of embryo of woman. Probably the image represents the goddess of earth and it was intimately connected with the origin and growth of plants. The Harappan therefore looked upon the earth as a fertility goddess and worshipped her in the same manner as the Egyptians worshipped the Nile goddess Isis. But we do not know whether the Harappans were a matriarchal people like Egyptians. In Egypt, the daughter inherited the throne or property, but we do not know about the nature of inheritance in Harappan society. We do not know about the nature of inheritance in the Harappan society. Some Vedic texts show reverence to the earth goddess. Although she is not given any prominence, it took a long time for the worship of the supreme goddess to develop in Hinduism. Only from the 6th century AD, various mother goddesses such as Durga, Amba, Kali, Chandi, etc., came to regarded as goddess in the Puranas and in the Tantra literature. In course of time, every village came to have its own separate goddess. The male deity in Indus Valley. The male deity is represented on a seal. This god has 3 heads and has arms. He is represented in the sitting posture of a yogi, placing one foot on the other. This god is surrounded by an elephant, a tiger, and a rhinoceros. Okay, rhinoceros and a buffalo. And a buffalo below his throne, and at his feet appear 2 deer. This image here is not clearly visible. When we read the chapter on the new NCERT, we can clearly see the related seal. Okay. This seal immediately recalls to our mind the traditional image of Pashupati Mahadeva. The 4 animals surrounding the god look towards the 4 directions of the earth. They may have served as vehicles for gods, but in later Hinduism, every god is supposed to have its own conveyance for his movements. In addition to the use of the image of Shiva, we also come across the prevalence of the phallus worship, which became so intimately connected with Shiva in later times. Numerous symbols of the phallus and female sex organs made of stone have been found in Harappa. They were possibly meant for worship. The Rigveda speaks of the non-Aryan people. Who were phallus worshippers. The phallus worship, which started in these days of the Harappa, came to be recognized as a respectable form of worship in Hindu society. Tree and animal worship. The people of Indus region also worshipped trees. The picture of God is represented on a seal in the midst of branches of the people. This tree continues to be worshipped to this day. Animals were worshipped in Harappa times and many of them are represented on the seals. The most important of them is the humped bull. Even today, when such a bull passes in the market streets, the pious Indians give way to it. Similarly, the animals surrounding Pashupati Mahadeva indicate that these were worshipped. Obviously, the inhabitants of the Indus region worshipped gods in the form of trees, animals, and human beings. But the gods were not placed in temples, a practice which was common in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Nor can we say anything about the religious beliefs of the Harappan without being able to read their script. Amulets have been found in the large numbers. Probably the Harappans believed that ghosts and evil forces were capable of harming them and therefore used amulets against them. The Atharva Veda, which is considered to be a non-Aryan work, contains many charms and spells and recommends amulets for warding off diseases and evil forces. The Harappan script. The Harappan script invented the art of writing. The Harappans invented the art of writing like the people of ancient Mesopotamia. Although the earliest specimen of Harappan script was noticed in 1853 and the complete script discovered by 1923, it has not been deciphered so far. Some try to connect it with the Dravidian or Proto-Dravidian language, others with the Sanskrit language, and still others with the Sumerian language. But none of these readings is satisfactory. As the script has not been deciphered, we cannot judge the Harappan contribution to literature, nor can we say anything about their ideas and beliefs. Unlike the Egyptians and Macedonians, the Harappans did not write long inscriptions. Most inscriptions were recorded on seals and contain only few words. These seals may have been used by propertied people to mark and identify their private property. Although we have about 250 to 400 pictographs and in the form of a picture, each letter stands for some sound, idea or object, the Harappan script is not alphabetical but mainly pictographic. Harappan script is not alphabetical but mainly pictographic. Attempts have been made to compare it with the contemporary scripts of Mesopotamia and Egypt, but it is the indigenous product of the Indus region and does not show any connection with the scripts of Western Asia. Weights and measures. The knowledge of the scripts must have helped the recording of the private property and keeping of the accounts. The urban people of the Indus region also needed and used weights and measures. Weights and measures for trade and other transactions. Numerous articles used for weights have been found. They show that in weighing, mostly 16 or its multiples were used. For instance, 16, 64, 160, 320, 640. Interestingly, the tradition of 16 has continued in India till modern times and till recently, 16 annas made 1 rupee. The Harappans also knew the art of measurement. We have come across sticks inscribed with measure marks. One of these made of bronze. Harappan pottery. The Harappans were great experts in the use of potter's wheel. We come across numerous pots painted in various colors. Harappan pots were generally decorated with designs of trees and circles. The images of men are also found in some pottery fragments. Seals. The greatest artistic creations of Harappan culture was the seals. About 2000 seals have been found and these a great majority carry short inscriptions with pictures of one-horned bull, the buffalo, tiger, rhinoceros and goat and the elephant. Images. The Harappan artisans made beautiful images of metal. A woman dancer made of Bronze is the best specimen. So this question has already been asked last year. Okay, dancing girl is made of which metal? Except for a necklace, she is naked. We get a few pieces of Harappan stone sculptures. One steatite statue wears an ornamented robe over the left shoulder and under the right arm, and its short locks at the back of the head are kept tidy by a woven fillet. So see, this is dancing girl. This is called bearded king. Okay, when we read the new NCERT, we will see the figures. Okay, dancing girl and bearded priest. Okay, terracotta figurines. We get many figurines made of fire-baked earthen clay, commonly called terracotta. These are either used as toys or object of worship. They represent birds, dogs, sheep, cattle, and monkeys. Men and women also find a place, and a second outnumber the first. The seals and images were manufactured with great skill, but the terracotta pieces represented unsophisticated artistic works. The contrast between the two sets indicate the gap between the classes which used them. The first were used by members of the upper classes, and second were by the common people. The Harappan culture is poor in artistic works made of stone. We do not come across any massive work of art in stone as we find in the case of sculptures of Egypt and Mesopotamia. Origin and maturity and end of the Harappan civilization. The Harappan culture existed between 2500 BC and 1750 BC. Its mature phase lay between 2200 BC and 2000 BC. But throughout the period of its existence, it seems to have retained same kind of tools, weapons, and houses. The whole style of life appears to be uniform. We notice the same town planning, same seals, same terracotta works, the same long checked blades, but the view stressing changelessness cannot be pushed too far. We do notice changes in pottery of Mohenjo-daro over a period of time. Around 1750 BC, the two important cities in Harappan culture, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, disappeared. But the Harappan culture at other sites faded out gradually and continued its degenerate phase in outlying fringes of Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Western UP. It is difficult to explain the origin of the Harappan culture as it ended. Several pre-Harappan settlements have been found in Baluchistan and in Kalibangan in Rajasthan, but the connection between them and the mature Harappan culture is not clear. Though Harappan culture may have evolved out of these indigenous settlements, nor do we have clear proof of outside influence on the Harappan cities. Contact with the Mesopotamian cities may have provided some stimulus to the development of Harappan culture, but there can be no doubt the Indianness of the Harappan culture. Certain elements distinguish it from the contemporary cultures in Western Asia. It planned its towns with their chessboard system, streets, drainage pipes, cesspits. On the other hand, the Mesopotamian cities show a haphazard growth. Rectangular houses with brick-lined bathrooms and wells together with their stairways are found in all Harappan cities. Such town planning is not to be found in cities of Western Asia. No other people in antiquity had built such an excellent drainage system except perhaps the Cretan Knos. Okay, this is in the Greece region, modern Greek region. Nor did the people of the Western Asia show such skill in the use of burnt bricks as Harappan did. The Harappans produced their own characteristic pottery and seals. The latter represented the local animal world. Above all, they invented their own typical script which bears no resemblance to the Egyptian and Mesopotamian scripts. Although the Harappan culture was a Bronze Age culture, they used bronze on a limited scale and largely continued to use stone implements. Finally, no contemporary culture spread over such a wide area as the Harappan culture did. The structures of Harappan cover 5 kilometers in circuit, and in that way are the largest of their type in Bronze Age. No urban complex of Harappan magnitude has been discovered so far. While the ancient cultures of Mesopotamia continue to exist even after 1750 BC, the Harappan culture disappeared at about that time. Various causes have been suggested. Some ascribe it to the decreasing fertility on the account of the increasing salinity of the soil caused by expansion of the neighborhood desert. Others attribute it to a sudden subsidence or uplift of the land which caused floods. And still others point out that Harappan culture was destroyed by the Aryans. In later phases of the Harappan culture, some exotic tools and pottery indicate the slow percolation of new people in the Indus Basin. A few signs of insecurity and violence appear in the last phase of Mohenjo-daro. Hoards of jewelry were buried at places and skulls were huddled together at one place. We also notice new types of axes, daggers and knives with midribs and flat tanks appear in upper levels of the Mohenjo-daro. Although basically they seem to be Indian, they may betray some foreign influence. Traces of new people appear in a cemetery belonging to the late phase of Harappa, where new kinds of pottery occur in the latest levels. New types of pottery also occur in some Harappan sites in Baluchistan. At several sites in Punjab and Haryana, painted grave ware, generally associated with Vedic people, has been found in conjunction with some late Harappan pottery. All this can be attributed to the barbarian horse riding people who may have come from Iran through the hills, but the new people did not come in such number as to completely overwhelm the Harappan cities. In Punjab and Sindh, although the Rigvedic Aryans settled down mostly in the land of the seven rivers in which the Harappan culture once flourished, we have no evidence of any mass scale confrontation between Harappans and the Aryans. So, we have finished this Harappan part from the old NCERT. So, let us, in the next class, let us see this similar portion, Harappan civilization from the new NCERT. Then we will move on to the next chapter in the old NCERT. So, in this way, we will read all the relevant chapters together.